Welcome back, everybody. Today is Friday, November 15th. Today we'll be wrapping up Chapter 10, Social Networks, Auctions, and Portals. Remember, Chapter 9 homework will be due next week. Chapter 10 homework will also be posted this afternoon, and it will be due next Friday at 11:55 p.m., so just make sure you all get those in. Today we'll be starting out on the bottom of page 394 with market maker benefits auctions as an e-commerce business model. So online auctions have been among the most successful business models in both retail and B2B commerce. eBay has been profitable nearly since its inception. eBay's strategy has been to make money for every stage in the auction cycle. So eBay is going to earn revenues from auctions in several ways. These ways consist of transaction fees based on the amount of the sale, listing fees for displaying goods, financial services fees from payment systems such as PayPal, and advertising or placement fees where sellers pay extra for special services. These services can consist of particular display or listing services. It is on the cost side that online auctions have extraordinary advantages over that of the original retail or catalog sites. Auction sites carry no inventory and do not perform any fulfillment activities, so therefore they don't need any warehouses, shipping, or logistical facilities. Sellers and consumers are going to provide these services and bear these costs in these online auction marketplaces. Now let's get into some types and examples of some auctions. There are going to be four major different types of auctions. First off, we'll start with the English auctions. Now the English auction is the easiest to understand and usually the most common form of an auction that's going to be seen on eBay. Typically there's a single item up for sale from a single seller. Sorry, lost my spot here. There's a time limit when the auction ends, a reserve price below which the seller will not sell. This is usually unknown, and a minimum incremental bid is set. Multiple buyers bid against one another until the auction time limit is reached, and the highest bidder is going to be the one who wins the item. I think everyone's familiar with the English styled auctions. Next, we have the traditional Dutch auctions. Now, in these traditional Dutch auctions, they are found in Holland. Now, in this type of auction, for example, there's 5,000 flower growers, and these growers are actually going to own the auction facility. Now, they're going to actually sell bundles of graded flowers to 2,000 buyers. The Dutch auction uses a clock visible to all that displays the starting price growers want for their flowers. Now, every few seconds, the clock ticks to a lower price. When the buyers want to buy at the displayed price, they push a button to accept a lot of flowers at that particular price. If buyers fail to bid in a timely fashion, their competitors will win the flowers. This auction is very efficient. Next, we have just the original Dutch internet auctions. Now, in the Dutch internet auctions, these can also be seen on eBay, on sale, and others. And the rules of the auction are different from those classified in the classical Dutch auction. The Dutch internet auction format is going to be perfect for sellers that have many identical items to sell. Sellers start by listing a minimum price or a starting bid for one item and the number of items that they have ultimately for sale. Bidders specify both the bid price and the quantity that they want to buy. And the winning bidders are going to pay the same price per item. So Dutch internet auctions is good for people that have a lot of the same type of goods. So homogeneous goods, if you would say. Name your own price auctions. The name your own price auction was pioneered by Priceline, and it's going to be the second most popular auction format that's available on the web. Users specify what they're willing to pay for goods and services, and multiple providers bid for their businesses. Prices do not descend and are fixed. So the initial consumer offer is a commitment to purchase at that price. So name your own price. The price is set, and there's multiple prices that are going to be bid for these people's businesses in these name your own price auctions. Group buying auctions, also known as demand aggregators. A demand aggregator facilitates group buying of products at dynamically adjusted discount prices that are based on high volume purchases. So online demand aggregation is going to be built upon two principles. The first principle is that sellers are more likely to offer discounts to buyers that are going to be purchasing in volume. The second of these principles is that buyers increase their purchases as prices fall. Prices are expected to adjust dynamically to the volume of the order and the motivations of the vendors. So group buying auctions, obviously, buying in bulk here. Professional service auctions. This is going to be probably one of the more interesting uses for auctions on the web and in eBay's marketplace for professional services. Elance is a good example. Now this auction is going to be a sealed bid, dynamic price market for freelance professional services. These services can range from legal and marketing services to graphics design and even programming. Now firms looking for professional services are going to post project description and request for a bid on Elance. Providers of services bid for the work, and the buyer can choose from among the bidders. Now, when do we actually use these auctions in our particular businesses? There are going to be many different situations in which auctions are an appropriate channel for businesses to consider. Now, the objective of businesses using auctions is going to be to maximize their revenue. And they do this by finding the true market value of products and services. A market value that is hopefully that's going to be higher in the auction channel than it would be in a fixed price channel. Now we have many factors to consider here when to actually use the auctions for our business. We'll get into some of these factors to consider. Type of the product is one, where online auctions are going to be most commonly used for rare and unique products for which prices are going to be difficult to discover. And there also may not be no other market for the goods. So the type of product is going to be a good determinant when determining whether we should actually use an auction. So product life cycle is going to be another. Product life cycle, for the most part, businesses have traditionally used auctions for goods at the end of their product life cycle. And for products where auctions are going to yield a higher price than that in the fixed price liquidation sales. Products at the beginning of their life cycle are increasingly being sold at auctions. So it's good to know that it's now that we're seeing a trend where items that are in an earlier stage in their product life cycle being sold instead of just trying to liquidate items that have been sitting and becoming stale pieces of inventory. Next, channel management. Established retailers such as JCPenney and Walmart and these other big name manufacturers need to be careful not to allow their auction activity to interfere with their existing profitable channels, with their existing retail business models. They don't want to try to impede too much on those models, whereas ultimately that's their main source of revenue is in those existing profitable channels. Another determinant factor is going to be the type of auction. Sellers obviously should choose auctions where there are many buyers and only a few or even one seller. English ascending price auctions, such as those as eBay, are going to be the best for sellers because as the number of bidders increases, the price tends to move higher. Initial pricing is another factor. Research is going to suggest that auction items should start out with low initial bid prices in order to encourage more bidders to bid. Now, the larger the number of bidders, obviously, the higher the price is going to move. Bid increments. It is generally safest to keep bid increments low, so to increase the number of bidders as the frequency of their bids. So obviously, if these bids are in a lower manner or lower bids are being thrown out on this auction platform, then chances are that more people are going to incrementally bid because they know if they can just throw an extra $1 or $2 out there, consumers are going to be willing to bid an extra $1 or $2 as opposed to say $50 to $100 increments. So good to keep in mind what type of bid increments that you need to see. Auction length, in general, the longer auctions are scheduled, the larger the number of bidders, and the higher the prices can go. But now, once the new bid arrival rate drops and is going to approach zero, the bid price is going to be stabilized. And most eBay auctions are scheduled for 7 days. So usually about 7 days, I guess, is where they found that this price equilibrium for whatever product or service is being sold is going to be realized. So the number of items is also another determining factor. When a business has a number of items to sell, buyers usually expect to see a volume discount, and this expectation can ultimately cause lower bids in return. So sellers should consider breaking up very large bundles into smaller bundles auctioned at different times. Price allocation rule. Most buyers are going to believe that it's fair that everyone pay the same price in a multi-unit auction, and a uniform pricing rule is going to be recommended. eBay Dutch Internet Auctions is going to encourage this expectation. So the ultimate idea is that some buyers should pay more based on their differential needs for the product, and it's not going to be widely supported here on the price allocation rule. Closed versus open bidding. Closed bidding has many advantages for the seller, and sellers should use this approach whenever possible, mainly because it's going to permit price discrimination without offending any of the buyers. Next, we'll get into some auction prices. Are auction prices necessarily going to be the lowest prices? So it is widely assumed that auction prices are lower than prices in other fixed price markets. There are going to be many reasons why auction prices might be higher than those in fixed price markets for items of identical quality, and why auction prices in one auction market may be higher than those in the other auction markets. Now, consumers are not driven solely by value maximization, but instead are influenced by many situational factors, irrelevant and wrong information, and misperceptions when they make market decisions. Auctions are social events, shared social environments where bidders adjust to one another. Now, bidders are going to base their bids on what others previously bid, and this can lead to an upward cascading effect. In a study of hundreds of eBay auctions for Sony, PlayStation, CD players, Mexican pottery, and Italian silk ties, a research found that bidders exhibited herd behavior. Now, herd behavior is the tendency to bid higher for items that is based on the higher bids of others. So we're letting the other bidders' behavior influence our behavior. It's making it seem like it's going to be more of a desirable product. So when do auction markets fail? We have to deal with fraud and abuse in auctions, unfortunately. So online and offline auction markets can be prone to fraud, which is going to produce information asymmetries between that of the seller and the buyers, and even among other buyers, which in turn is going to cause auction markets to ultimately fail. So some of the possible abuses and frauds that we might see in these auction markets could consist of any of the following. We'll start with bid rigging. Bid rigging is going to be agreeing offline to limit bids or using shills to submit false bids that are going to drive prices up. Price matching is going to be agreeing informally or formally to set floor prices on auction items below which sellers will not sell in open markets. Shill feedback on the defensive is going to be using secondary IDs or other auction members to inflate seller ratings. Shill feedback on the offensive is using secondary IDs or other auction members to deflate ratings for another user. This is also referred to as feedback bombs. Feedback extortion, threatening negative feedback in return for a benefit. Transaction interference, emailing buyers to warn them away from a particular seller. Bid manipulation. This is when using the retraction or the retraction option to make high bids, discovering the maximum bid on the current high bidder, and then retracting the bid. Non-payment after winning. Blocking legitimate buyers and by bidding high, then not paying. Shield bidding, using secondary user IDs or other auction members to artificially raise the price of an item. Transaction non-performance is another. This is where accepting payment and failing to deliver. Non-selling seller, refusing payment or failing to deliver after a successful auction. Then the last one mentioned here is going to be bid siphoning or siphoning, emailing another seller's bidders and offering the same product for less. So victims of auto auction fraud scams reported more than 8.2 million in losses and an average reported loss of more than $2,000. And this was reported in 2012 to the FBI. Auction sites have sought to reduce these risks through various methods. These methods include rating systems. These rating systems allow previous customers to rate sellers based on their overall experience with the previous buyers or sellers, and allow the buyers to see these ratings. Watch lists. These are going to allow buyers to monitor specific auctions as they proceed over a number of days and only pay close attention in the last few minutes of bidding. Proxy bidding. This is where buyers can enter a maximum price they're willing to pay, and the auction software will automatically place incremental bids as their original bid is surpassed. eBay and many other auction sites have investigation units that receive complaints from consumers and investigate reported abuses. Next, we're on page 400. We'll get into section 10.3, e-commerce portals. So portals are going to be the most frequently visited sites on the web, mainly because they often are the first page to which many users point their browser on a startup, so it's going to be their home page. The top portals such as Yahoo, MSN, and AOL have hundreds of millions of unique visitors worldwide each month. The original portals in the early days of e-commerce were search engines. Now, portals evolved into much more complex websites that are going to provide news, entertainment, maps, images, social networks, and in-depth information. And they even have education on a growing variety of topics, all contained at that particular portal site. Web portals are very much like television networks, destination sites for content supported by advertising revenues. So what about the growth and evolution of portals? Web portals have changed a great deal from their initial function and role. The initial function provided by portals was to index web page content and make this content available to users in a convenient form. Early portals expected visitors to stay only a few minutes at the site. Now today, portals are going to provide three important services. These services consist of search and navigation of the web, e-commerce purchasing, and content. Because the value of portals to advertisers and content owners is a large function of the size of the audience each portal reaches and the length of time visitors stay on the site, portals are going to compete with one another on reach and unique visits. Reach is going to be defined as the percentage of the web audience that visits the site in a month. And unique visitors is defined as the number of uniquely identified individuals who visit in a month. You can recall we touched on reach and unique visitors earlier in the semester. Now, portals are going to be subject to some network effects. The value of the portal to advertisers and consumers increases geometrically as reach increases. These effects have resulted in differentiation of the portal market space into three tiers. A few general purpose mega portal market space is a few general purpose mega portal sites that garner 60 to 80% of the web audience. The second tier, general purpose sites that hover around 20 to 30% reach. And the third tier, specialized vertical market portals that attract 2% to 10% of the audience. So once again, these are the effects that resulted in the portal marketplace being divided into 3 tiers. The types of portals: general purpose and vertical market. There are going to be 2 primary types of portals: general purpose portals and vertical market portals. General purpose portals attempt to attract a very large general audience and then retain the audience on site by providing in-depth vertical content channels. These channels can have information on news, finance, autos, movies, and weather. Vertical market portals are going to attempt to attract highly focused, loyal audiences with a deep interest in either community or specialized content. This content is going to range from sports anywhere to weather or whatever it might be. Vertical market portals have recently began adding many of the same features that can be found in general purpose portals. General purpose sites such as Yahoo try to be all things to all people, and they're going to try to attract a broad audience with both generalized navigation services and in-depth content and community efforts. The general purpose portals are very well-known brands, while the vertical content and affinity group portals tend to have less well-known brands. Portal business models. Portals receive income from a number of different sources. Table 10.6 summarizes the major portal revenue sources. So we'll take a look at Table 10.6 for a moment on page 404. So we can see here this list of typical portal revenue sources. On the left, we see the portal revenue source, and on the right, we have a description of that revenue source. So the first one is going to be general advertising. The description is going to be charging for impressions delivered. Tenancy deals. This is going to be fixed charge for a guaranteed number of impressions, exclusive partnerships, and sole providers. Commissions on sales and be revenue based on sales at the site by independent providers. And subscription fees can be charging for premium content. Applications and games. Games and apps are sold to users. Advertising is placed within the apps. So these are some typical portal revenue sources. So the business strategies of both general purpose and vertical portals have changed greatly because of the rapid growth in search engine advertising and intelligent ad placement networks. These networks consist of stuff such as Google's AdSense, which can place ads on thousands of websites based on the content of the websites. Now, this does wrap up Chapter 10. Once again, Chapter 10's homework will be posted this afternoon. It'll be due next Friday at 11:55 p.m. So make sure everyone gets that in. Once again, remember Chapter 9 homework will be due next week as well. And once again, that's all I have for you. So on Monday, we will be starting on Chapter 11. And we will get through Chapter 11 next week. And that will actually get us through all the new content for this course. The only new stuff that we'll be seeing after Thanksgiving break, we'll have Chapter 11 homework assigned the week before Thanksgiving break, which will be next week. That homework will not be due until the Monday following Thanksgiving break, so we have all Thanksgiving break to work on Chapter 11 homework. And then when we get back, we're going to watch a video on Jeff Bezos, a video on Mark Zuckerberg one day, and then lastly on that Friday, we'll have our final exam preparation for our final exam. So with that being said, that's all I have for today. I hope everyone has a good day, and and a good weekend, and I will see everybody on Monday, and we will start Chapter 11. Thank you.